So for the new carburetor build, we're going to, well, it's not new, it's ongoing, but we're going to turn this two-corner idle into a four-corner idle. I'm going to show you how. Okay, now our carburetor originally was born, this is the actual original main body to it, it's a 700 Holley, but it was initially born with a two-corner idle. That's what the base plate is. That's what, it was born with. Now, I want to be able to have four-corner adjustable idle mixture screws where there's mixture screws on all corners, right? Here's how we're going to go about it, all right? But first, let me just go over the idle, you know, circuit so that we can fully understand what it is we're actually doing here. So it all starts with the jets. Now all the fuel that goes into this metering block has to go through the jets, aside from the power valve, but well, not a part of the idle mixture circuit, so we're just going to stick with these jets, right? Now the jets feed into this. This is the main well, okay? And this main well comes up and it feeds into this, and it goes all into the carburetor. Now if you turn over to this side, these two holes right here are idle, well, idle and off idle ports. This hole is your transfer slot. This hole is your idle mixture. This screw goes into this hole and it blocks off the passage between this hole and that hole. That's what it does. This meters the fuel flow from this hole over to this hole. Those two are connected, okay? And that's why if you have your transfer slot too far open, all the fuel is just going to come through the transfer slot and not bypass over through here. Then you won't get any mixture adjustment out of it. That's the reason, because they're literally connected right here. You don't want any, well, not much fuel flowing through the transfer slot at idle. You want it to all go over to this side, metering by this, and then down through the idle circuit, okay? Now this screw is the reason why, even though the idle circuit is connected and directly flows through the jets themselves, the jets don't have any influence over your idle mixture, like none. And that's the reason, because this screw is restricting the fuel flow, not the jet. The orifice that is created by that screw poking into the hole joining these two, that size is going to be smaller than whatever jet you are running. So the jet is no longer the restriction like it is on the boosters. The jet is the restriction to the boosters, but it's not the restriction to the idle circuit. This is, and that's why jet changes don't affect the idle circuit. So that is the metering block side of things. The metering block goes into here, the main body. And there's those two holes again right there. This is the transfer slot, this is the idle. And all it is it goes in and it comes out right there. Bam, bam. That's all there is to it on that. Then it comes to here. Transfer slot, idle, okay? And this idle hole goes down into this hole right, oh, I'll show you on this one, that hole right there, that's your idle. Okay, so we've followed the path of the idle mixture, right? Transfer slot right here, obviously, right? Idle, okay. So, what is it we're trying to do? We're trying to make it so we have metering abilities on both the primaries and secondaries at idle. Because right now we only have it on the primaries. So, what do we have to do? What we have to do is go to the base plate. First of all, this channel right here channels fuel over to the secondary side, okay? Because there's no metering action going over here, there's no fuel flow over here. It all comes through this slot from the primaries. What we need to do is we need to block this channel off. We need to separate these two, okay? Because we want individual mixture here, nothing coming from here, pretty self-explanatory. We need to isolate the two. So that's step one. And step two is simply get a metering block with screws in them. Pretty simple. Now, in actuality, the metering blocks between the primaries and the secondaries are exactly the same, aside from if it's a two-corner idle, these won't be drilled out. You'll still have the provisions for it, but they won't be drilled out. You could drill and tap one yourself if you wanted, and this won't be drilled and tapped. Well, not tapped, but tube inserted, won't be drilled. If it's a dedicated secondary metering block for a two-corner idle carburetor. But otherwise, you can use a primary metering block on the secondaries, which is what we're going to do in actuality. All you need to do is just block this off, right? Well, really, you don't even have to block this off. I'll show you in a minute why. And get either a plug for this, or you can try to run dual power valves. People do it, you know, there's tuning for it, but I'm just going to block it off. Actually, all the metering blocks between 4150, 4160, vacuum secondary, all those metering blocks are basically the exact same metering block. This is from a 4160, a vacuum secondary 4160 600 Holley. But they're basically all the exact same. Minor changes, possibly some restrictors might be a little different sizes if you get too outside the range of what you're working with. But as far as I'm aware, they are pretty much all interchangeable. Now let me show you the vacuum pour. Why do I say that doesn't really matter? Well, it's because, let me see if I can show you here. Okay, so here is why I say the vacuum port doesn't matter. You can keep it, doesn't matter on the secondaries. It's because right here is your vacuum port. Right there. It is only on that one side. That is the only hole for it. So if you had vacuum on the secondaries, it wouldn't matter. There's nowhere to pull it from. So it is essentially just a dead hole at that point. Because as you can see, all it does in here doesn't go through any fuel. It just bypasses down to here, goes in right through there, and comes in right through there. So yeah, right through there. There's no other place for it to go, so it's, you know, a moot point. You can leave it on. You can break it off like I accidentally did on the other one. We're just going to JB weld the hole shut just because and use that primary metering block on the secondary, and this is going to be our new primary metering block. Now, the way you're able to do this, because remember I showed you there's those two holes right there. Well, if we go to the secondary side, it's still drilled for the two holes. This was born a two-corner idle, but it still has the provisions for it right there. So they basically just, you know, pre-allowed it. That is all you have to do. So that's what we're going to do. And I'll catch you next time. Good. Go to bed. It's late.